Archie, Reggie, Veronica, Veggie, Jughead too. Where? Archie's Weird Mysteries.
Halloween of horror! It's that time of year for fright and fear. But if you live in Riverdale,
Pack up your jack-o'-lantern and run for your life!
there's no time for trick-or-treat on this Halloween of horror!
So now, here we are to finally finish off the vampire trilogy once and for all. So we pick up where the last episode left off, with the Vampire Master, for some unexplained reason, turned old instead of being completely destroyed. He drains Scarlet of her youth to regain his own, and I'm not sure why he didn't do that straight away, or on someone who wasn't a loyal and trusted servant, instead of coming all the way back to wherever it is their hideout is. Though I think it's because at this point the Vampire Master is a Mary Sue of a character, pulling new powers out of his ass with no mention or reference to them. Later that night at Veronica's, there's a Halloween party going on, with Archie for some reason wearing the power armor from Virtually Evil. Credit where credit's due, I suppose. Scarlet appears, though the others at first think she's Veronica, who warns them of the Master Vampire and the coming of the Night of the Vampire. Obvious question though is how the hell did a frail old woman outpace a powerful Vampire Master in getting to this party, since they arrive soon after the other, and even with a head start and some daylight, it seems unlikely she'd get there first. When the Vampire Master appears, he attacks Reggie, so points to him, I guess?
No, really, I am.
Who for some reason then puts back on his mask so that the show can do his vampire reveal, despite the fact we already have a scene which shows him being bitten. Even at the end, this show isn't trying to be subtle or clever. Reggie and the Vampire Master begin to try and attack the others, whilst the Master dismisses Scarlet, who no longer seems to be a vampire since we never see her switch, despite her youth being drained, since the Master was still a vampire, but just really old. In classic slasher movie fashion, most of the others get picked off one by one, with only Veronica, Jughead, Dilton and Scarlet left, all of whom walk to where the vampire's secret base is. I repeat, all of whom walk to the vampire's base. Seriously, the time frame of the show ends up all over the place. All three of the main characters get picked off one at a time, with the Master doing his best monologuing about his victory.
Medlock shall rule over the eternal darkness.
However, it seems everyone was wrong and Scarlet was actually the chosen one, not Veronica. As noted in the first part of this storyline, the chosen one will be mistaken.
Raven and red upon their heads, destiny awakens. One girl is the ender while another is mistaken.
But of course this is really just bullshit no matter how much you claim it was set up, because they already used the whole mistaken idea in the first episode. Which would then open up a whole set of questions about how Veronica used the amulet in the first place if she wasn't the chosen one, and if Scarlet had found the amulet without Veronica getting to it, would she have destroyed the vampires herself? And how would the prophecy know that the amulet would just turn the Master Vampire old instead of destroying him like it had done the other vampires? And why did it do that? With this episode's ending, it just leaves us with a very contrived story with lots of last minute plot changes or sudden ones at the beginning. A couple of episodes ago I said how these have to be looked at as part of a story and not separately due to their very nature as a trilogy, and this is just the terrible climax to a story with no weight behind it anyway. This episode is the epitome of what's wrong with this arc. It pulls plot points out of nowhere, characters change personality on the whim of the plot, and we have the day being saved by someone who for one episode is the villain, for another is just a jealous bitch, and the final one, she does little to nothing until the last couple of minutes. So finally, this arc and this episode are laid to rest at number 3.
Alternate Riverdales! Time criminals are trying to change Riverdale by altering the past. Can Archie stop their horrible plan before he completely runs out of time? Or will he be trapped forever in alternate Riverdales?
Yes, it's the middle part of the other three-parter that managed to get this high up. So, let's find out why. So we open our continuing villain, Vinnie Wells, stewing in jail after trying to break into a bank with a hand crank drill, which is still the stupidest thing I have ever had to say. However, he gets busted out by his future self, who's been able to get the time travel device again. Will the episode ever explain how or why after 30 years he was able to even get near that device again? No, of course not. This is Archie's Weird Mysteries, where motivations and logic are just words that have been removed from the writing process. Also, instead of just going back in time and fixing his own stupid ass mistake of trying to steal from a bank, he still has it out for Archie, despite the fact that busting him out 30 years in the past would completely change the time stream. Has this guy ever seen Back to the Future? This time travel stuff is extremely complicated. Meanwhile, Archie is being tricked by Reggie and a puppet. And we get an impressive bit of screwy continuity, as at first there is no one but Archie and the alien in the room, and then suddenly the room is full of students laughing at him. Even if they were behind the pretty much see-through chairs, you would imagine Archie would notice, and the shots from behind said chairs should have shown at least something was hiding behind them. Later on, Betty and Veronica badger Archie about picking one of them exclusively, which was a plot point brought up in the first part of this, but it's fairly unimportant. Also, why are they not trying to get Archie themselves instead of acting angry at him and likely driving him off from dating either one of them? You know, you catch more bland white characters with honey than with vinegar. That's all I'm saying. Later with Reggie still acting like an a-hole, he gives Jughead a burger that's supposed to be from Archie, but it turns out to be a veggie burger, so he flips out.
Huh?
A veggie burger? You made me break my vow to never eat vegetables. How could you?
Okay, 1, it's a veggie burger, calm the fuck down, Jughead. 2, it was Reggie who gave you the burger, did that not at all seem a tad suspicious? And 3, can we not have characters act like asshats at the drop of a hat because you're trying to set up your stupid Archie thinks about leaving Riverdale plot point? Archie gets a call from Dilton about something having happened at the prison, because yeah, I'd allow 2 unaccompanied teens to just wander about a prison and mess with someone's jail cell. Dilton tells Archie that should the time stream change at all, that he'll be fine as we get our first little change. Archie's car is now pink.
What was that?
What was what?
Oh no! I think Finney has already changed history.
What makes you think that?
Because my car definitely wasn't pink when I parked it.
Wow, way to get revenge on Archie, Vinny. It'll surely cost him to respray that car red.
I didn't spend 30 years in jail for nothing, plotting my revenge on Archie. This is a very clever plan.
Yeah, I'm sure it's clever. Not quite as clever as just going back in time and stopping yourself from fucking up in the past, mind you. Even if that might cause some kind of paradox. So, question, does older Vinny need younger Vinny here, really? Because it never actually seems like he has any part to play in this plan. So thanks to the Vinnies, strange things begin to happen. Archie's car becomes a pink scooter and then subsequently disappears. Big Ethel is now attracted to Dilton, which seems like a win for him, but is played off like it's bad. Jughead is now a health food junkie, Veronica is now acting like Betty, and vice versa. The principal is now a coach and has hair, also seeming like a win for him. And many other stupid things. How of course any of this is happening is a complete mystery, because I doubt the writers have the brains or creativity to actually explain these changes instead of just saying they actually happen. Because I certainly can't work out how any of this would come about, especially since the next episode of this trilogy shows that both Betty and Veronica were the same as kids as they are now. All well and good claiming that life choices put the characters where they do, but not explaining them causes more problems than it solves. With the final shift, Vinny has now become Emperor of the Planet, though to steal a line from Shrek, the only Emperor he is Emperor of the Stupid. So the Emperor of the Planet settled for a small throne in the midst of a sleepy little town? Somehow I don't see it. But that may be because, like with many other episodes, this whole little section is only covering the last few minutes instead of covering an entire episode. Older Vinny declares that he will stop Archie's parents from meeting and stop him from being born. Something that seems kind of impossible, as he wasn't around for the conversation where that was brought up, so how would he know where to go or who to look for? The two briefly struggle and fight, ending up in the swirling Doctor Who-like time tunnel again, but Vinny's impatience appears, as the episode shows us, to wipe himself entirely from time itself. A fact that we now know is not actually true, as there's one more part to this, though we already covered that earlier in the list. Just like the final vampire story, this is just a bad episode on its own and is part of a storyline. It's heavy-handedly pushing subplots at the beginning, but then dropping them immediately once the actual plot begins. The villain is still a one-dimensional caricature, focused entirely on his own idea of revenge, and never once thinking about how it's his own fault, and how easy it would be to fix his mistake, instead of trying to fuck over Archie. Speaking of fucking him over, changing his car to pink? Really? That was the beginning of your grand plan? Way to show your mindset, writers. He has to drive a pink car, and pink cars are only for girls. Oh, the humiliation he will suffer. Not like females do well in this series anyway, given the slave girl posing of Betty and Veronica during the Emperor Vinny bit. Also, how the hell did he become Emperor exactly? Because it feels a little like the Underpants Gnome's plan. Step 1, time travel. Step 2, one big ass question mark. Step 3, Emperor. Also, why did he break young Vinny out of jail when there's no point other than putting him on the throne? A position you'd think he'd want to have for himself. It seems so stupid that the actual antagonist of the episode switch in the second part of the trilogy to never have a point again. This episode leaves a lot of holes and really should have just ended here instead of running itself on into the third part. Or hell, actually have had the third part be something to do with the plot threads brought up over the last 2 episodes, instead of not at all. So for this episode that thought it had all the time in the world to waste, it's a hearty wake-up call at number 2.